Welcome to the Luke Macias Show. Guys, we have a ton going on this week in the Capitol, in Texas politics. A&M, the federal judge has told A&M they have to trans their campus with Draggy land. More importantly, the Texas Senate, it is important that they're trying to trans Texas A&M. I mean, if you're an Aggie, my parents are Aggies, we bleed maroon. So it's a big deal. But I will also tell you that today what I want to do is give you a list of 30 conservative bills that have already passed the Texas Senate. And this will put into perspective how this session could transpire if we continue the pace of the House and the Senate. Let's get to the show. I'm recording my episode a day early. I think y'all will still get it on Wednesday. But just to give you some context, the team the recording team and editing team had some obligations on Wednesday, which is normally when they do this. So we're recording on Tuesday. And the reason I say that is because as of today, if you look at the amount of policy that the Texas Senate has sent over to the Texas House, it's over 100 items, okay? That's including Senate concurrent resolutions, Senate joint resolutions, all these various different things. But what I did was I just went in and pulled a list of the actual Senate bills that had passed the Texas Senate. And at the time I pulled them, there were 83 bills, 83 Senate bills that had passed. That being said, I mean, today, as I'm recording this, the Senate has 54 bills on the intent calendar. So this number is going to go up on a routine basis. And several of those bills on intent calendar, I have already been informed by Texas Gun Rights and by other conservative groups that they have legislation on the intent calendar that they are supportive and would accomplish some of their legislative priorities. So there is more that is imminent. There's more that could pass any day and be sent over to the House. And as a reminder, the Texas Senate or the Texas House can both originate a piece of legislation. That legislation will be considered in their respective committees. It will then get passed out of that committee. It will then go to the floor of that chamber. It will get voted out of that chamber, and then it gets sent to the other chamber. So House bills go to the Senate, Senate bills go to the House. And then when those show up, those go to the respective committee of that chamber to get heard, to get voted out, to get sent to the floor, to get voted on, and to go to the governor for a signature. And if he signs it, it is law. The only reason that you and I are engaged in Texas politics is to accomplish conservative policy. Okay? Now, I don't know activists, people who are out there who literally tell me, I only like campaigning, I block walk, but like when it comes to the session, I don't care what happens. I have yet to meet that person. Maybe some of y'all know those people, but those are not the people that I work with. Those are not the people I work around. Those are not the people that I meet. I spoke just a week or two ago to a Republican club, and those people were actively engaged in the process. They wanted updates on where all the policy was. And everyone's kind of trying to figure out, well, what all can we accomplish this session? And what often has happened is that the Texas House has tried to discern for themselves what is the bare minimum amount of work we can do to where the people at home are happy and the Democrats are still happy with our little power sharing arrangement. But my opinion is that the Texas House knows it needs to do a lot more than what it has done in the past. And then the question is, well, how much more? And that's going to come down to all the work that everyone does in Texas to try to advance the ball as much as possible. And the chamber that is already working very hard to do that is the Texas Senate. Now, of the 83 bills that I pulled, 21 of them were Democrat bills and 62 were Republican bills. Okay. Now, I will tell you, I looked through the 21 Democrat bills. None of them stood out as some outrageous, egregious, horrific policy. I didn't read every single line in every single bill because I'd be up till 4 a.m. But I did go through them. There was nothing crazy to bring to your attention at this time. I then went through the 62 Republican Senate bills, and I categorized them as 30 conservative bills, and the rest of them, when I say I'm not saying they're not conservative, but a lot of them are innocuous. They're just, they're harmless, but they're not necessarily policy that you'd probably find in the Republican platform, to be honest. You might see, I'm just like looking at, look, Senator Sparks passed a bill relating to the selection of the board of directors of the West Coke County Hospital District of a depository bank for the district. Now, guys, I don't know if for some of y'all that's your top priority for the session. Maybe if you're in West Coke County Hospital District, it is. Okay. So if you're there, you're a big fan of Senator Sparks right now because he's already delivering for you. But for the rest of Texas, that bill doesn't really excite anyone, but that bill doesn't anger anyone. It's just a piece of legislation that needs to pass into law to address an issue that is necessary. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through 30 Senate bills that have already passed the Texas Senate very quickly with you because I need you to know the type of policy that's already moving forward. And on a daily basis, there's 6, 8, 10 conservative policies, 3 or 4 conservative policies on some days. They get added to this list and it's building up and they're on their way to the House, which gives us enough time, even though the Texas House has been working much more slowly. They are working at the pace that they did last session. I authored a piece, 48 conservative bills that died in the Texas House, and the vast majority of those bills passed the Texas Senate and died in the Texas House. And so even though they are working at the same pace they worked last time, it doesn't mean that all of those policies that died last time have to die this time because they have plenty of time to pass them. Let's go through this list. Not in a particular order. Technically, I guess it's ranked by alphabetical order of the senators that have passed them. But Senator Betancourt passed SB 1025. This was relating to the text of the ballot propositions that increase taxes. This is more transparency that taxing entities are not a fan of. Senate Bill 4 is an increase in the homestead exemption, which does get us closer to families being able to own their own property. Now, I have said this, neither the Texas Senate or the Texas House is seriously considering property tax relief this session. They have a $23 billion surplus, $26 billion, I don't remember, 23, $26 billion, a lot of money they have as a surplus, but both of the respective chambers do not have a significant amount of property tax relief. They might only deliver $6.5 billion of new property tax relief, which would be a fraction of what they delivered last time. And none of y'all were walking around saying, my gosh, we're on our way to eliminating property taxes. But with that being said, it is an increase in the homestead exemption, which is several $1 billion of property tax relief. And that relief is then focused and honed in on home owners. Senate Bill 15 by Betancourt is a affordable housing bill. Now, affordable housing isn't something that conservatives tend to read and go, oh, we need affordable housing. But don't think of this as government subsidized housing. Think of this as affordable housing. And what this does is it goes into the top 18 cities in Texas and tells them that if people are creating these smaller family homes, I'm giving you the very broad brushstrokes of what this policy does, but it gives developers the ability to go in and build affordable housing so somebody can have a small 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house at $180,000 in a large city. And it removes a lot of the red tape for developers who are trying to build in those areas. A very, very, very good bill that is key to Texas's continued growth and to families being able to get into a home. And picture this. What if you bought a $180,000 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house? It might be on a very small lot. Okay, so you might not have a huge backyard. But if the homestead exemption goes from 100 to 140,000, and then next session we get it to 180,000, you have a scenario where a starter Texas family, a working class family, because we've removed the red tape to build these homes, can actually find a little 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house that they can buy. And they can have 2 or 3 children in that 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house and be fine, right? They can actually build an asset of wealth for themselves. And that asset of wealth, because it's $180,000, they're paying a very limited amount of property tax on that property now, which makes it more affordable for them to live, not only to purchase the home, but to live in the home. So huge steps forward. If you actually combine SB 4 and SB 15 together, you see this path to getting Texans to a place to where they start to own their own property. We're very far from it, but each step is really important. Senate Bill 869 by Brian Birdwell relates to the deadline of the Texas Ethics Commission to resolve certain complaints. A lot of these different bills, by the way, are good, positive reforms for citizens. They bring transparency to the process, and they take certain government agencies who have been more oppressive to citizens, and they tie their hands a little bit. Senator Brandon Creighton has SB 12 relating to the parental rights in public education. This is a parental bill of rights in public schools. It's a fantastic bill. For me personally, this bill is probably one of the most important bills of the session. We had a school choice debate. Of course, you know I support school choice. I think that's a really important policy to pass this session. On top of passing school choice, we have to continue to address the public school system. And this is one of those bills that goes in and makes sure that parents are protected, that students are protected from indoctrination with sex and gender ideology. Really key bill. Senate Bill 12 and then Senate Bill 2 by Senator Creighton has also passed. Senate Bill 20 by Senator Flores relates to the creation of a criminal offense of the possession or promotion of obscene visual material appearing to depict a child. There's a bunch of bills that address these issues. We have to continue to protect Texas children in any and every way possible. And so Senator Flores' bill is key to doing that. Senate Bill 28 by Bob Hall relates to the lottery game. This actually outlaws couriers, okay? And couriers is one of the ways that the lottery has become corrupt. Now, there is a bunch of corruption in the Texas lottery, and one of the goals that conservatives have this session is to potentially just do away with the lottery entirely. And I think there is increasing appetite on both sides in the House and the Senate to do just that. But Senator Hall's bill, and Bob Hall has been the leading voice in the Texas Senate when it comes to the Texas lottery. Many people who are on Sunset also challenge them, but I will tell you, Senator Bob Hall knows more about the lottery than any Texas senator, in my opinion, has done more to reform them, has done more to hold them accountable, and has done more to fight the corruption. And he was tasked with the Senate to pass Senate Bill 28, which is already over at the House to be addressed. Senate Bill 40 is by Senator Huffman. Now, Senator Huffman has a number of bail bonds bills, okay, and joint resolutions, which are constitutional amendments. And we have a problem with all of these corrupt blue county judges letting all these violent criminals out on bail. And then those violent criminals, guess what they do? They continue to be violent criminals. So they're let out on bail and then they go kill someone. They let out on bail and they go beat someone. So Senator Huffman has led the way when it comes to protecting us. She has stood up for law and order for a long time in the Texas Senate, and she is leading the way on bail reform. One of the things that she did was Senate Bill 40, which actually relates to the use by political subdivisions of public funds to pay bail bonds. You actually have political subdivisions, cities, counties, Democrat-led, who are taking taxpayer money and paying bail bonds. So there's multiple reforms we have to do this process to tie the hands of judges, but also just to stop the other corrupt practices that have come out as the left has taken hold of some of our larger cities and counties. Senate Bill 9 by Senator Huffman also is a bail-related bill. Senate Bill 314 by Brian Hughes relating to the prohibiting certain food additives being included in free and reduced lunch meals. Now, again, the reason this is really important, by the way, is that a free and reduced lunch meal is a taxpayer-funded meal. We can have a long discussion about that. We can have a long discussion about all of the different products that we give. But when it comes to the SNAP program and the free and reduced lunch program, there is zero reason that we as taxpayers, if there's any food we're ever buying for anyone, it should not be cruddy, fast food, junk food, sugary food, soda at all, period. Brian Hughes' bill is part of the Make Texas Healthy Again agenda, Senate Bill 314. Senate Bill 18 by Brian Hughes is a library bill. There is Senate Bill 18, which is actually something that says if a library hosts a drag show, a drag queen story hour, they lose their public funding. Senate Bill 13 by Senator Paxton is relating to school libraries. We are trying to get porn out of the libraries, sexual graphic material out of the libraries. We're trying to get drag queens out of those places. We're trying to get the books out of the school system entirely. There was one bill filed. I can't remember who filed it. It might be Andy Hopper. I'm sorry if it wasn't. And if it's somebody else, I don't mean to take away your effort. But it was a bill that said if A book cannot be in the Texas prison system. It can't be in our Texas libraries because we have books in our public school libraries that are not allowed in the Texas prisons. Like the Texas prisons has a list of prohibited books, and those books that can't be in the prison library are allowed to be in your middle school library. Simple bill that says if we decide it can't be in the Texas prisons, it can't be in the Texas public school system either. That's a great bill. Anyways, Brian Hughes has Senate Bill 18, which gets rid of Drag Queen Story Hour effectively. Senator Phil King has Senate Bill 388, which has to do with decreasing our reliance on green energy. And I will tell you, our grid is going to continue to be less reliable the more green energy, which is unreliable, unreliable energy production gets added to the grid. You have to understand, if you take dispatchable power, this is natural gas, coal, things that actually you turn the light on and the power gets produced. The dispatchable power used to be the vast majority of the power being supplied to our grid. And over time, because of Joe Biden and Barack Obama and everybody else, we continue to we really subsidize the creation of all these green energy sources. So with wind and solar, it is not dispatchable. It's not readily available. You don't know if it's going to be available one day or another. And the greater percentage of that that's on our grid, the less reliable our grid is. And with all the growth that Texas is encountering, we have to continue to push reliability. And Senate Bill 388 by Phil King is one of the things that takes a step towards that. Senate Bill 10 by Phil King relates to the display of the 10 Commandments in public school classrooms. And what this says, if I understand correctly, is that they're getting around. Last time we did In God We Trust, but the problem was if somebody gave you a framed In God We Trust, you had to display it in every classroom in your school. And then they realized that you could go give them In Allah We Trust because there wasn't a requirement that it was English. And so we had to go back and clean that up. Senate Bill 10 is looking at that. And so it's more restrictive. It basically just says, hey, if you give somebody the 10 Commandments, and I think it's English, that those are going to get displayed in Texas classrooms. Senate Bill 10, if it passes, will put the 10 Commandments back into Texas classrooms all across our state. It's an incredibly important bill. Senate Bill 10 by Phil King. And there are quite a few more good pieces of conservative policy that passed the Texas Senate, which we will get to when we come back from this break.
Hey folks, Chris Salcedo here. I've got something special for you, the Salcedo Storm podcast. As your friendly, liberty-loving Latino, I bring you a mix of engaging discussions to help us fight for our state and our conservative values. It's the perfect way to stay informed and engaged in what's happening around you. So, what are you waiting for? Don't miss out on the storm of information and entertainment coming your way. The Salcedo Storm podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Senate Bill 25 by Lois Kolkhorst is related to the health and nutrition standards to promote healthy living. This is a massive Make Texas Healthy Again bill. Excellent bill by Senator Kolkhorst. Another one is Senate Bill 400 relating to parental consent of psychological and psychiatric examination testing or treatment conducted by a school employee. It is unclear today whether or not they need to get your consent. And the truth is, which means they don't need to get your consent to have a psychiatric evaluation of your child in these schools. This has to stop. Senate Bill 400 by Kolkhorst. I believe she passed it last session and the Texas House killed it. She's passing it again. Senate Bill 17 is related to the banning the purchase of real property by certain foreign entities, mainly being China. This bill is bigger and broader than it was last session. It encompasses much more Texas property than it encompassed last session. I appreciate the work that Senator Kolkhorst has done on Senate Bill 17, and I'm hopeful that we're able to get that across the finish line. There are some people that have concerns. I know a couple SREC members and other people that I really respect and enjoy and work closely with who are concerned about certain provisions in SB 17. My opinion is that even if this bill is 90% or 95% of what we want, we get it into law. And then the reality is, if there are certain small groups of certain Chinese nationals that we think still maybe have the ability to purchase some certain land, then we can figure that out and then close that loophole at a later session. But Senate Bill 17 does a great job taking a huge bite out of the apple of this policy. Senate Bill 412 by Middleton is related to the defense of prosecution for certain offenses involving material conduct that obscene, otherwise harmful to children. That's SB 412. I believe this is the obscenity exemption removal for teachers. So there's certain people that are protected that have basically a defense to prosecution for showing your kid obscene material. One of them is like a police officer, a judge, which they say they need in certain circumstances. Let's say in the event that there's been mistreatment of a child and they're investigating that process, there might be a need to show certain obscene material to a child in the process of the investigation in a pursuit of justice. But one of the people that have that defense of prosecution are teachers, and they should not. There should be never, ever, ever, ever a situation where your teacher says, I had to show your child this very obscene material. Absolutely not. Take the exemption away. Senator Middleton has that bill. I believe Jared Patterson has the identical bill in the Texas House, and it has already received a hearing in State Affairs. Senate Bill 11 by Middleton is regarding a period of prayer and reading of the Bible or other religious texts in public schools. Senate Bill 19 by Mays Middleton has passed the Texas Senate, which is a taxpayer-funded lobbying ban. Now, sadly, a small number of senators teamed up with the Democrats to water that bill down, and that has been reported by Texans for Fiscal Responsibility. So you can go to their website. I think it's texastaxpayers.org or .com. Go there, read about SB 19. Sadly, a small group of Republicans teamed up with the Democrats, and what they did was they made sure that the nonprofit associations can keep being funded. So Texas Municipal League, Texas Association of Counties, Texas Association of School Boards can still get your taxpayer money and then lobby against your values and your principles. But about probably $600 to $700 million of taxpayer funded lobbying would be banned with the passage of this bill. So Senate Bill 19, and hopefully we can make that stronger in the Texas House. Senate Bill 35 by Robert Nichols relates to design build contracts. I'm not an expert on the transportation policy. Terry Hall is my go-to for transportation policy. My understanding of this bill is that it does save taxpayers money when it comes to all the money we're spending on transportation projects. So I will at least say that that could be a win for taxpayers. Senate Bill 1106, we're coming here towards the end, guys, is a Senate bill by Tan Parker relating to the publication of public improvement district service plans for certain public internet websites. Again, there's just a lot of these bills, if you look, that the Texas Senate has clearly taken a look at and said, let's make things more transparent. Let's make things more readily available to voters. Let's make sure that people more easily access things that their government is doing. Senator Angela Paxton has passed Senate Bill 402, which is an ad valorem tax refund. This is actually an interesting bill where there's just not clarity on when the courts determine that somebody didn't owe a tax, exactly how that money is refunded to them. There's not a streamlined process, which has created some complications. So this is just a simple bill that says when a court determines that you've overpaid and you're owed tax money back, we're going to streamline the process by which the comptroller ensures that that money is then returned to you. Good bill. Senate Bill 610 by Senator Paxton relates to combating human trafficking by the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. And also 890 is related to the issuance of license to carry handguns for certain judges. So this is a deal where there's a streamlined process for retired judges to get a license to carry. And Senator Paxton, probate judges are not on that list. So Senator Paxton's adding probate judges to that list. And I will say from my conversation with Chris McNutt, I don't think I'm outing him in any way, but last week I talked to him and he did update me with the reality that they have been getting a lot of positive feedback and movement on their gun policy more early in the session than they are used to. So that is very encouraging to see policy like that moving. Senate Bill 13 is also by Senator Paxton, and it is a library bill. I mentioned that earlier, but she's continued to be a leading voice to try to protect our kids and get filth out of our library system. Senate Bill 21 by Charles Schwartner establishes the Texas Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. I own Bitcoin. I know a lot of you own Bitcoin as well. Senate Bill 21 is a good step in the right direction when it comes to pro-Bitcoin policy and less fiat currency in not only our nation, but also our state. So Senate Bill 21 by Charles Schwartner. Senate Bill 706 by Charles Schwartner is a recognition of a handgun license issued by another state. This broadens the reciprocity that we have with other states. So it makes it easier for other American citizens who have a license to carry in their state to carry in Texas. That's Senate Bill 706. And then Senate Bill 495 by Senator Kevin Sparks is relating to the Department of Insurance adopting rules to implement ESG. So this is an anti-environmental social governance bill by Senator Sparks, which is a good bill for Texas. We need to get environmental social governance policies out of the investment funds that any of our pensions invest in, and some of that is happened and has happened already. Senator Hughes was a leading voice on that. But one of the problems we have is that it is still potentially in our insurance policies. And so Senator Sparks is addressing that with Senate Bill 495. There's a lot of other bills. Guys, I could go through tons of bills. I've read a lot of these bills and researched them for you to bring them to you. But this is just, 29, 30 different bills that have positive impacts. And here's my point in going through this. The clock matters. And what the Texas House has done is basically made sure that no bills pass, even when they could be passing bills. So they could have passed bills last week and the week before. They didn't. That was intentional. It was on purpose. It was a deliberate decision. Now, I and many people who I agree with would argue that that is a bad idea for Texas, that you and your family suffer as a result of the inaction of the Texas House. But what I will also tell you is that the Texas House still has plenty of time to pass a lot of conservative policy. And ultimately, Dan Patrick said it best maybe 2-3 weeks ago. He said, at the end of the day, it all comes down to what bills pass and what bills fail. What bills pass and what bills fail. What bills pass and what bills are killed, because that is what has happened in the past. The Texas House has killed much of this policy. It's unacceptable. The good news is you're watching. We are talking. And we are going to know exactly what policy they kill if they decide to kill it. But they don't have to kill any of this. All of this legislation still has plenty of time to pass, but every single week is incredibly important, which is why you need to engage. I will tell you, every single one of the groups I've talked to, they have capital days you can go down to. I talked about that several weeks ago. You can donate $50. You can contact your state representative and say, hey, can you look at these legislative priorities? Texans for Vaccine Choice yesterday just posted legislative priorities for the session. You could take that graphic, send it to your senator and representative and say, this is a really important thing for me. Can you please sign on to this legislation? You could do the same on gun issues. You could do the same on any given issues. You could take a list and go, here's some bills. Can you please sign on to this legislation? And if you do that and you keep pushing, more wins will occur. More conservative policy will be enacted. And that's the only reason we engaged in the political process in 2024 was so that policy could be enacted in 2025. The reason you're so excited about Donald Trump's presidency is because he's doing real things with the power he has. And in Texas, for a long time, the Texas House has not done much with the power they have, but they still have time. So you need to encourage them to get to work. May God bless you, and may God bless the great state of Texas.
Be sure to subscribe to Texas Scorecard on YouTube and click that bell to ensure you're a real Texan. If you liked this video and want to see more citizen-driven journalism, be sure to click like and go to TexasScorecard.com to read about all things Texas. Texas Scorecard, real news for real Texans.